see my courses or courses that I'm registered for, right? And then it's clicking through. When it's clicking through to see courses that it's registered for, those are not files. Those are stored in tables like objects, right?
Yeah.
Those are usually like tables. So there's either file or object storage. File storage is as it sounds. So if you're thinking of S3 bucket, think about the library. Now they arrange books. Yeah. So you can go to aisle A4 and go and pick a book. Say, okay, this is a book I think from aisle. Everything is just layered like that.
So when you say file storage is more like structured data storage.
Yes. But even in the database storage, you can do structured and unstructured. That's not the delineation. The delineation is block. So sorry, is file versus block, not file versus stuff. So a file, the two types of storage are file versus block. So ignore the first one I told you. File storage, block storage.
No object storage.
So object is almost like it's file / object.
Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes they do it interchangeable. So object storage aligns more with files, not just an object. So block storage is kind of like if you wanted to store books, you know that those things are so small and so layered and so that the size of a book is predictable, right? You can see a book that's like this, but you most likely won't see a book that's like this, right? So you have the sizes, different sizes, but if you've ever written book and you wanted to publish, they'll give you sizes, and there's a maximum which you can go. So when you're doing file storage, you do it for smaller things that you want to store, like you want to store like a PDF file, Word document. You usually do file storage, and then when you want to pick it, it goes, you can just go and pick one, right? Now block storage is for chunks of data, right? When you want to store very, very big objects, like for instance, like a video file. The video file is a file, but it's also a very big file. And then for things that you don't access too fast, basically, right? Because when you go to block storage, instead of going line by line, it actually goes line by line before it gets to another block, as opposed to files where you just go and pick it. So sometimes it's slower to retrieve data from block storage. But the good thing is that the block storage is very persistent, right? It stores the data with a higher reliability, basically. So that's why people use EBS volumes. EBS means elastic block storage. So EBS volumes is more like a hard drive. You know, a hard drive, a big hard drive, attached to it.
Yeah.
They use these terms for mostly serverless services like AWS and cloud. But the most thing that you need to understand is if you create an EC2, you have an EBS volume to persist data. If you want that EC2 to be getting data fast, real quick, you want to create an S3 bucket. But in this scenario, if you want to if you have a website, right? Instead of putting a web, you have an option to put a website on the EC2, but instead of that, you can put it on an S3 bucket, which behind the scenes is an EC2. You just condemn it for storage, basically. EC2 is just a computer. Retrieving data from, huh?
So you said EBS volumes are attached to EC2 instances, right?
Yes.
And these EBS volumes are like hard drives.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you have an EC2 instance that already has an EBS volume, you still need an S3 bucket, or is it just depending on the dynamic file.
It depends on the architecture. You don't need an S3 bucket, but it depends on the use case. If you're doing a website that is publicly accessible, which means that the data that you have there is not like sensitive data. Anything you put publicly accessible means you said, okay, I want this data to be retrieved by anybody, right? Then it's easier to put it on S3 because first we know S3 you don't need to set up VPC, you don't need to set up network, you don't need to set up security group, many things. S3 bucket is kind of like a managed service for EC2. EC2 gives you more control. With EC2, they are giving you your own laptop. With S3, they are holding the laptop behind the scenes and asking you to log in. So depending on your use case and depending on the company policy based on that particular type of application. So in companies, they have applications that are internal, then they have external. The internal, they usually try to make sure that it's guarded. And the external, they don't really care about it, but they still don't want people to hack it and like break it down, right?
Yeah.
But they don't put much configuration around that. Then another thing is the data that you're going to be processing. So a lot of companies have payment people's information, their name, their address, and stuff. And the government says you have name and address, you have to protect it. So usually they try not to put those ones on S3 bucket, they put it on EC2 because they can build security around it. You can also build security around S3, you just can't build as you don't have as much control basically. Anything in AWS, like I saw people trying to answer which one is faster, which one is easier to set up, which one is more secure. Generally, if you see questions on AWS that has to do with speed, you will choose the managed service. Managed service meaning AWS will spin up stuff for you, unlike EC2 where you have to spin up and do all this stuff. But if you see things like security, then you go for the infrastructure as a service, which is not the managed service, basically. The more you offload to AWS in terms of overhead management, the less overhead management you have, the less security. So that's with S3 and EC2. S3, you have less overhead, you don't manage. But EC2, you still have to manage. If your EC2 goes down, you can't call AWS and say, why did my EC2 go down? That's your problem. But if S3 goes down, you can call them.
Sorry, is it because of, I think I read somewhere that there's service level agreements for particular services. Okay.
Yeah, when you see they'll give you SLAs, which is service level agreement, that means they're saying that we guarantee you that this would be all running for 99999. The more nines you see, the assurance you get. And mostly all those managed services, they give you some assurance. Basically. But EC2 is basically just a computer you control. The only thing you don't control there is the operating system. But you even can choose which one you want.
Okay. All right.
So presentation layer is basically where you just put your internet facing. Give me 1 second, okay? So much now.
Archie. Okay.
Yeah.
I only have 6 minutes because I gotta go to a meeting. But let's see what I can come from. So what we want to do is we want to try to put our HTML in S3 buckets. Okay. Then we would this will now be our presentation layer. instead of using an icd. Now we will not another layer of stuff is called an application. The next layer is called an application layer. They also call this the business layer. Now, why do they call it the business layer?
That's where
They
the
call it a,
compute. Sorry, go on.
yeah, they no, go ahead, answer.
I was gonna say that because that's where the compute takes place.
Yeah, but why do they call it business?
That's where the customers interact with.
Probably. That's because they call code business logic. This is very important for you to understand. Yes. Business logic. Why they call it business logic is because that's where they write the logic. Logic is code that actually does the work that brings money to the business.
Oh,
So IT in general is a supporting function. It supports the business of the company. It's not a money producing, right? Not a business. But usually applications are like in this case, the thing that actually does the buying and selling is an application, like check in, check out, put stuff in your cart and all those things. Those are applications. If an attacker attacks that those functions, the business would not be able to go on. So you write business logic, but the departments, developers in companies are called business. So you go to work and someone say, "Oh, why not? You want to talk to the business? Please don't go and sell them something. Don't let your Nigerian sense come and start trying to sell phone for them. They are just talking about whether you have talked to the developers." So whatever work that you try to do now, your customers, it's not customer facing, but your customers will be the business side, which is the developers. So when they say we're talking to the business is giving the problem, they're just saying that developers give problems. So developers always give problems. You know. So that's why I call it the application business layer. What sits here, right? Here, what you have is applications, the applications that do work, any application that does work. To write applications that actually do work, in this case, if you're selling phone, you first want to give them a place to display the phone, which is the website. You have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But when somebody displays the phone and he wants to buy, he clicks buy. It's supposed to take them to another back-end server or a back-end service that has application logic, right? What do they use to write this thing? They use the most popular one is Java. Second most popular one is Python. And then you have C Sharp and C plus and all those things. I don't know if you guys are familiar with any of those ones.
yes.
Yeah, so they call these languages back end programming. They call this ones front end. They call this one back end because they use this to do the back end. The back end is the application layer and the database layer, which we're going to come to. Right? Mm-hmm.
Database layer.
So just imagine that this goes for here, this goes for here. right? So now what is the infrastructure? Because when you see when I say front end language, back end language, those are programming languages used to build software. So the software needs to sit on a hardware or like a infrastructure. That's what they call it. So just like this guy is the software and it has to sit on S3 buckets, presentation layer. This is the infrastructure. So we're gonna say software. That's the software, and then this one is now the hard, or let's say infrastructure. So the software is the code and the application that comes out of it. The infrastructure is the S3 buckets. So this sits on this. Here we have the software, which is Java, and the application on a regular level, the applications here would be another EC2 instance. Another application, that's the one that you can control. The one that you have that you want AWS to control like half for you would be Lambda. So AWS usually provides two types of services. They provide something that you have full control of or like more control of, and then they allow you to just, you know what, don't worry about the infrastructure or anything. Just bring your code and we'll do the rest for you. So EC2 is the one that you can control. So you put your Java, Python, or whatever in your EC2. Or you can just say, I have Java, I have my Java, Python, and C#. I just want to put it somewhere. I don't want to create computers or anything. So you just put it to random. So these are the two most popular ones. Then you have Fargate and containers and all those things. So far, so good. Are we good?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So the last one will be the database layer. Whenever you go to a website and you're looking at, let's say, Amazon.com, and you click on the phone, right? And maybe the next class will be able to share, but this one I've not figured out. I think I have to share without going away from the dashboard. But when you click on the phone, what do you see after you click on it?
The interface.
No, you don't. You see the properties, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. If you want to buy a phone on Amazon's website, right?
Yeah.
So you can see how many is left in stock. You can see the information about that phone. You can see information about the seller.
Yes. So typically that data is not pulled up from S3. It's because so whenever you see data that has like a table format, so which means that you click the phone itself, which will be on S3, which is an image, right? But when you do that clicking of that phone and it goes to another page, it usually goes to pick information that links to that object, to that file, like which is the phone. So the phone is the object. Then the color, the type of phone, iPhone 12, the color of the phone, black, the memory of the phone, 530 MB. You know, those three things, they're almost like a table, basically.
I call them metadata. Like descriptive data.
Yeah, they are called, they just like metadata. Metadata is data about something. So you're very right. So many times that metadata is stored in a table. And a table It's just like a spreadsheet. So if you have a spreadsheet, you have rows and columns, right? Anything that has to do with iPhone 12, black, nice screen, this one, they are arranged. You have to store those things in a database table. Right? And that database table, you can put it on it's another layer itself. It's called the database layer. The code that you use to write some of these things is called SQL. Actually, the code is, they use something else to build it, but you use SQL to query it. I will get to all those later. So let's just say SQL, right? And the infrastructure here that you have to put on AWS. You can still use EC2. Most people don't use EC2. They use RDS, which is a relational database. And RDS. So you put all that table and all this. Another one that I'll introduce you guys later, but I have to go. It's called an API layer.
API layer. Is that what facilitates interaction between like the database layer
Front and the back end?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So that one you can now put like an API gateway here or something. We'll do that. So basically what you have is this arrow goes to this. This helps to facilitate this. And then same thing with this one. It goes and picks it back. And then it goes back. And those are how those things interact. So this is a proper 3-tier layer. Yeah. You can call it 4-tier because of the application API layer, but they don't really use API layer here itself. This is like virtually 85% of all, or let's say 80% or 70% of all applications. Anyone that's different usually takes away maybe like the presentation layer. So most applications you're going to be dealing with in your companies, they do a presentation layer, but it's mostly internal. They're mostly internal applications. They're not customer facing. So sometimes they remove this S3. They have API, business, and data. That's it. But in general, this is like 80% of all the applications that you're going to be doing. If you just understand this one is like this. This is how you structure your brain when you're talking about any IT problem or any call meeting that you go into. You just assume that all the applications are like this. And then you can now start. This is how you now compartmentalize your brain and start to like attack the problem small. So we'll now go into details later.
Awesome.
It makes sense.
Yes. Perfect.
Yes, it does.
So just whatever thing we talk about, compartmentalize your brain like that. Then if the API layer doesn't exist, then you remove it from your brain. Like that. When we come back here, we'll complicate this and then we'll show you how things just work in general. Let me rush and go to work.
All right, Jay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Are we going to have this tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll try to be joining every day. I'll try. If I miss one day, the next day.
All right,
Thank
man. Thank you.
All right.
So guys, you documented this. Does it give a documentation? Tasks.
I'll say that what I did was I think I wrote things down.
Yeah.
Um,
Data.
For me, I think I wrote it down. Did we use what I wanted to say? I wanted to say, Steve, did you use the AI companion?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so did I get structured documentation then?
Well, me personally, I'm not used to. Well, I only see them as the meetings, so I just turned it on. So
Okay, this was something I did.
this this Zoom is a paid Zoom, so I imagine that everything should be automated, right? So when I stop this, I should
It's
be
gonna
getting
come to
something
you.
in my mailbox or something.
Yeah.
Right. I can see meeting summary, meeting questions, mark recording, and all that.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
regardless, you can still come up with something. You can just fix the lead out the design architecture for 3-tier our application or something like that.
Yeah, and then I sent
Yeah.
the screenshots. He
To the
just
group.
said something important, like, yeah, like when you decide you should attack, like, almost every company, you have, like, this kind of structure for whatever service, whatever you're offering is, like, presentation layer, API layer, application, business layer, and then database there. So you can pose this in ChatGPT and tell it what you think about this in the context of cloud. Spicy.
Sharp.
I think you also mentioned something that when it comes to AWS, when you're talking about speed, you think about managed services. And when you're talking about security, think of infrastructure as a service. And you also mentioned that the less overhead, the less security.
I think you guys, I mean, just help us people to it. And let's do
I'll try to. What I'll do is that I'll try to put
add something and you can just
okay. I'll type up what I have written down and send it to you. I'm sure by the time Steve
So
says,
let's work on your IAM stuff too.
oh yeah. Oh, look, I'm on top of that. I don't want this one to start again tomorrow. I have to finish that up today, so that we can finish that.
Sweet.
So should I call you up later then, Archie, or what is convenient for you, Mister?
Whenever you and Archie are having the call, I'd like to join in as well. I'll be back.
No, honestly.
Okay, let's just do that. Okay, 1 minute.
I'm heading out
to share the screen? No, I won't be able to.
Okay, no problem.
You'll be able to share the screen.
Oh no, I can't. Right.
Everybody can share the screen.
Everybody can share.
Yeah, even the video quality is fresher, crisper.
You know that this thing is a free service. You understand? Google Meet. So some of these things it's paid.
The Google Meet we're using is not a free service.
It's paid.
Okay.
The one
I know there is free service.
Paid.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're using this
bad guys.